Did a bit of Superman Clark Kent.
Okay, hi everyone. I think we're just going to wait a couple of minutes because I can see more people are joining. Welcome to the second day of Creative Study in the UK. It's great to see you. Okay, I think we'll make a start, and then we can, and then hopefully people can catch up because all these sessions are being recorded. So I'm just going to try and share my screen now. Perhaps if one of my co-hosts could let me know if that's worked. Yep, thumbs up. Okay, brilliant, fantastic. All right, so welcome everyone. As I say, welcome to the second day of Creative Study in the UK. It's great to see you. We hope that you found yesterday useful. If you did miss any sessions yesterday or had any issues accessing them, then all of our sessions are being recorded. So just a reminder, you will be sent the recordings afterwards. But this is what we are covering today. So we're going to be talking about study film, television and media in the UK. My name is Rachel Sene and I work with Falmouth University, and I'll now hand over to my co-hosts to introduce themselves. So Felicity, maybe if you start.
Yep, morning all. My name's Felicity Lloyd and I work at the University for the Creative Arts. I'm a regional recruitment manager, so I look after North America, but I have a lovely team that looks after parts of the world. So inevitably you may end up coming through me if you come to UCA. It's nice to meet you. Thank you all for being here this morning.
Thank you. And Ryan?
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan. I work in the international team at the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts, and in our team we all cover the world. So you might get me sometimes, you might get one of my colleagues, Darren and Katie as well.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I probably should have said where I cover as well. So I work with East Asia. So given that it is 8 o'clock in the morning here, I'm very used to this time. So it's probably me that you will have seen if you've come to any of our events before. So this is what we are going to be covering today. So we're going to start off by just talking a little bit about the courses. Then we're going to be talking about the careers that you can expect from studying one of these courses. And then we're going to talk about applications. And then at the end, we're going to just introduce who we are, the universities that we work for, before handing over to your questions. We are going to allow a lot of time for questions at the end. So please do be thinking of questions as we're going through, and you can pop them in the chat or the Q&A function. If that is enabled, it is enabled. So yes, you can put them in the Q&A function. So in terms of the courses that are available, this is really what we're talking about. So film, TV and media obviously covers a huge range of different courses, and there will be more than are listed on the screen here. But ultimately, we're talking about things like film, television, animation, post-production and visual effects, things like creative advertising and script writing, and then elements of game development, so game animation and game art as well. And the first thing to say is that there is a lot of choice in the UK. So I just did a really quick Google before this presentation just to see how many courses we had. And you can see we've got over 2,693 courses for media and communications. We've got about 363 courses for film and television and 92 courses for games, and that's from hundreds of universities. So there's a really, really big amount of choice out there if this is an area that you are interested in studying. And in terms of the types of courses that are available, so ultimately you're looking at 2, 3 or 4 year courses. Most undergraduate courses are 3 years long. However, you can also have some foundation courses as well. And that's for if you want just an additional year to develop your foundational skills, or you need an additional year just to sort of get your qualifications up to the level that you need to enter into first year of undergraduate. Most programs will be 3 years. You will have some 4-year courses, and that will normally include a year in industry, or you can get some accelerated courses, and this is when you can do a full bachelor's degree, but just in 2 years. You can do some, in terms of the sorts of areas that are covered, you will have some that are combined. So you can study film and television, you could study marketing and communications, and then others are more specialised on particular areas, so such as animation or visual effects. So it depends really what you're looking for, if you've already decided on a kind of how specialised you want to go. And talking of specialism, there's a range of different institutions that you can do your programs, do your course at. So you've got more specialist institutions, more specialist creative institutions, and then others, it will be a creative department at a multi-faculty university. And in terms of how you choose your course, obviously I've said that there's thousands of courses available. The first thing that I would say is research. It's really, really important that you start your research now, and coming along to this event is a really good way to start. You will not be able to tell just from the title of the course what you're going to be studying. So doing a film program at Falmouth will be very different to doing a film program at LIPA or at UCA. So it's really important that you do your research and look at exactly what the program will entail. So in terms of thinking about sort of deciding which course and where you want to study, I think the first thing is to think about where do you want to study. And I've mentioned that there are different types of institutions available. So you can do these courses as part of a creative department at a multi-faculty university. And what I mean by that is probably what you're thinking of when you think about a university. It's a large university with loads of different departments that cover loads of different subject areas that aren't necessarily related to each other. And then you can study at a more specialised university. So we all come from specialist creative universities where all of the different departments are studying creative subjects or subjects related to the creative industries. And there are pros and cons to both, and it really depends what you want your experience to be. So obviously, if you're studying at a larger multi-faculty university, then you get the experience of being part of a larger student body, of being part of a student body where people are studying all sorts of different subjects, and all of the facilities and the experience of being part of a university that might have over sort of 10,000 students as part of it. Or you might prefer to study at a more specialist creative institution, so like one of the ones that we are coming from. At these institutions, you will be joining probably a lot smaller creative community where you'll be alongside like-minded students, where everyone is studying a creative subject or something related to the creative industries. Then have a think about the teaching style that you are interested in. Are you looking for developing your really practical industry related skills? Or are you more interested in the theory and maybe the history of the subject? And then have a think about the facilities that are available. So again, this might be where thinking about whether you want to be a specialist institution or at a multi-faculty university could come into play. So for specialist creative institutions, often you'll be on a campus that is purpose-built for creativity. So you will have access to loads of different facilities, not only the ones that are part of your department, but really recommend having a look on the university website. If you're looking at film, have a look at the different production studios. Do they have stop motion? Do they have green studios? So having a look there and seeing whether the studios and the facilities match up with the sort of areas that you want to work in. Then have a look at contact hours. Now, I'm sure you're aware when you come to university, it's very different to being at school in terms of the number of contact hours and the amount of contact time that you have with your academic, and this can vary hugely by course and by institution. So have a think, are you someone who benefits from having a really packed timetable? You want to have loads of contact with different academics to be really, really busy learning loads of different skills? Or are you someone who would benefit from the freedom and the independence of having time to yourself to really deep dive into your subject, to develop your own projects and to make the most of the resources and the facilities that are on offer? Then have a look at the industry links. So all universities should have industry links, and these should be listed on the website. Obviously, we're aware that you're probably really concerned about the job and the careers that you can have afterwards, and Felicity will talk about that a little bit more in a second. But have a look at the links with industry that each university has. Are there opportunities for work experience? Are there opportunities for placements? Do they have masterclasses? Do they have guest lecturers? Are there opportunities for you to work and meet people from the industry that you are interested in working in? And then finally, I would recommend having a look at the alumni destinations. You can tell a huge amount from an institution by where their alumni have ended up. So have a look at where the alumni at this institution have gone on, what they've gone on to do, and think, is this the sort of thing that I would like to go on to do myself? So these are just a few questions that we recommend that you start asking yourself. You might not have the answers just now, but the best thing to do is to research. As I say, go onto websites, go to virtual open days and ask questions, and you can start by doing that in this session here. And then in terms of what to expect, again, this will really vary by course. However, these are just a few of the sort of common themes that you can expect whatever program you study in film, TV and media. So firstly, you will be challenged to be creative. These are not courses where you will be told exactly what to do. You'll be expected to develop your own ideas and will be supported to develop these ideas into fruition, whether that's a film, a game or a creative advertising campaign. You will be expected to use your own initiative and to be creative. There will be a mixture of teaching and self-study, and I've spoken already about the different types of contact hours. However, for all programs, there will be a mixture of you being taught different skills and being in lectures and workshops, but there will always be an element of self-study where you will be expected to use your own initiative and develop your own projects and work independently. You will also be working with like-minded people, and I think I think this is one of the most amazing parts of going to university and studying a project, studying a program that you are passionate about, is that you get to be amongst people that have the same interests as you. You simply would not choose to come and study something every day for 3 or 4 years unless you are passionate about it. So this is an opportunity for you to be amongst friends that have the same passions and interests as you on your course. So I'd say that's a really, really excellent part of doing a program like this. Then you will not always be in a lecture hall. So this again may be very different to your experience at school. While you will maybe sometimes be in a lecture hall, you will need to get used to working and thriving in lots and lots of different environments. So this could be production studios, on sets, in editing suites. Perhaps you'll be on location outdoors if you're doing film, in games development studios, in stop motion studios, or on field trips. So you will need to get used to working in lots of different environments with lots of different external factors influencing you, but it does make it a very exciting programs to do. And then finally, you will be collaborative. So you cannot create a film, a game, a creative advertising campaign without working with other people. And as well as getting used to working with people on your course, you will also probably need to get used to working with people outside of your course as well. So for example, if you're a film student, you'll need to get used to working with actors, maybe with composers, with editors, as well as people outside of the university as well. So perhaps you'll need to liaise with people outside of the university to book a filming location, for example. So you'll need to learn how to be collaborative, how to take on other people's ideas and work together to deliver a project. So this is just a sort of overview of the programs, and I'm now going to hand over to Felicity, who's going to talk a little bit more about where you can take these studies once you've done them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you guys about jobs, because one of the things that certainly parents always worry, you know, if my child goes and does a creative degree or does something in art and design, are they going to have a job at the end of it? And the reality is, yes, absolutely. The world would be very boring if we didn't have any television to watch, if we didn't have movies to go to, if we didn't have computer games. There's an incredible amount of people involved in these industries. And I think parents and sometimes teachers, even when they're stood there with their phone in their hand and a radio or a TV on in the background, they just forget that the people who created these went to an art and design, well, not necessarily an art and design institution, but they studied a creative degree, and they are creators of this content. It's all very good doing business, but even business needs creative individuals to actually spur on the industry. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is a few different images of different creative industries in the UK, and just talk to you about jobs a little bit in a second. And hopefully this will inspire you guys to just learn a bit more about the UK and its creative industries itself. So these are some of the jobs that you can go into, or that our students have gone into after they've graduated. The job possibilities really are endless, and the creative industries in the UK, so sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, sorry. The creative industries in the UK are worth £111 billion each year to the UK economy. I think it's something like 1 in every 6 jobs is a creative job or linked to the creative industry, and the creative industries are growing at 5 times the rate of the wider economy in the UK. So it is a huge industry. For a small island, we really pack a punch when it comes to the creative industries. If you're looking at these jobs here, what I think is really interesting is that in the future, so by 2050, sorry, I've got a lot of statistics this morning. By 2050, 2 in every 5 jobs that exist now won't exist and will have been replaced by something completely new. So you're going to go into this really rapidly changing and evolving world. And a lot of the jobs that you guys will do when you graduate may not even exist now. And I know that seems like an over-exaggeration, but when I went to university, so I went to university in 2004, and when I went to university, Facebook was just a glimmer in someone's eye. You know, it hadn't even reached the point of being cool yet, because people didn't even know about it. If you think in the last 17 years, how huge and important and influencing the social media industry has become. You know, if you'd have said to me at 15 that an influencer or a manager of social media talent was a job, I would have had absolutely zero idea what you were talking about. And I was quite a switched on kid. It wouldn't have even occurred to me. You know, this is a completely new industry that's sprung up in the last 17 years. And I fully expect that you guys will be going into industries that we, as olds, don't really even know about yet. And it's really exciting to see what you'll do to change the world. So this is just a short list of some things that our students have done. But really, we could write about a 10-page PowerPoint with little tiny writing, and that would be very boring. So there are lots of things for you to do out there. Can you pop on to the next slide for me, please? Thank you. Okay. So as I said, the UK creative industries, especially film and television, really pack a punch. You guys might think, oh, I've never watched a British show in my life. What are you talking about? You would be amazed at how many shows internationally, especially American ones, are actually just remakes of British television shows. We're a nation of ideas, we're a nation of creation. So a lot is done here. So I'm just going to go through these. So on the left is obviously a game, and then down on the right, we're talking about the gaming industry as well. Most famously, I think Grand Theft Auto comes from the UK. The gaming industry here is huge. There's been a massive investment by the government and by industry to actually increase the gaming industry. So you'd be amazed at what is actually coming out of the UK. And then in terms of where we are, I know it sounds silly, but because we're a smaller island, it genuinely does help in distance wise that people can communicate a lot easier and things are just on your doorstep. So you're seeing British games all over the world on your phone, on your Xbox and PSs. So yeah, it's very influential. Now, obviously, everybody who seems to be in Star Wars seems to be British, even if they're playing Americans. You do encounter this quite a lot. It just tends to happen. I think most of the Marvel characters playing Americans tend to be British as well. So, and they're not always bad guys, which is quite novel. So Star Wars, an awful lot of the post-production for all the recent Star Wars has been done in the UK. I mean, obviously a lot of it's been filmed here as well, but a lot of that post-production has been done. And down at the bottom, Rogue One was actually directed by a British student. He was one of our students a few years ago. Obviously, our animation industry is really big. I think one of the most famous animation probably to come out of the UK in recent years is Peppa Pig. I was too old for this. I never encountered Peppa Pig when I was younger, but I'm sure there are students out there thinking, oh my God, it's that pig again. She haunts my dreams. But yeah, as I said, the animation industry is huge. You know, I think recently, you know, we did Isle of Dogs and all these kinds of things. So yeah, don't underestimate the British animation industry. Can you pop onto the next slide for me? And then just a few more things that have been going on. So obviously I talked to you guys already about Grand Theft Auto, but yeah, as I said, the gaming industry in the UK is absolutely enormous and just continues to grow. It's we shouldn't be smug about it, of course, but it's nice to see that a lot of industry is coming to the UK, including film and television. Literally just down the road from my house, they've been doing the prequel to the new Game of Thrones. I can't remember what it's called, but they've been shooting it just around the corner from us. Half of the Marvel films that feature any outdoor wooded settings, that again is about 20 minutes drive from me, and we're really lucky that we've been able to send students to work on those. But this happens with all of us. There's an incredible amount of filming and location scouting in the UK. So we all of our students are able to get this really, really hands-on experience in the industry, whether they actually want to be a director, a photographer, or an animator. They get this hands-on experience before they graduate. Up on the top left, a lot of advertising, a lot of graphic design campaigns. A lot of our students were really involved with oh God, I can't speak. A lot of our students were really involved with competitions during the COVID outbreak, because obviously we might have been at home, but nobody stopped working. Competitions are really, really central to what you do as a student. We want you to get your name out there. So we have endless amounts of students entering competitions, entering exhibits, getting their name out there before they even graduate, which is wonderful. And then at the bottom, we've got students who have gone on to work for Saatchi & Saatchi in advertising, which we're very proud of. Again, these are some of our students who've gone to work as animators. I'm sure you guys can speak for your own universities, but just at UCA alone, we have about a dozen Oscar winners, and half of those are from our animation school. It's amazing how much we absolutely kill at the Oscars and all the big award shows. Some of our students even beat Frozen 2 for a Golden Globe recently, which we were very proud of them. And then at the bottom, on the left, obviously Tom Hiddleston playing Loki is a Brit, but this was all produced and directed by a British woman and massively shot in the UK as well. So don't underestimate what we're doing here. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, the pressure's on now, isn't it, to top that? So I'm going to talk a little bit about applications. So going back to where you are now, potentially finishing high school or close to the end of high school, and looking at how you can apply to our universities and creative courses more generally in the UK. Next slide, please. So who are we looking for? We're looking for you to demonstrate, I guess, a few different skills. So we're looking for storytellers, visual storytellers being a big thing. We're looking for people who have cultural and critical awareness. So something to say about the world, something good, something bad, something that they perhaps want to change and promote that through the creative studies. But I think that cultural awareness, and kind of linking back to what Felicity was just saying, is very, very important to us. We're all creative institutions. These are creative courses that you're applying to, and we want students to be able to show their individualism, their uniqueness, a little bit about their personality, because that's what these courses are all about at the end of the day. There isn't one size fits all. There isn't one type of student for this course at any of our institutions. We're looking for you to be able to be proud of who you are and to promote that and showcase your individualism to the best of your ability. A bit like what Felicity just did, vision, passion is very important. So we want you to be able to showcase that passion to us, your enthusiasm for the area that you're going into, your enthusiasm for the career, and to be able to show that both for scholarship opportunities potentially, but also for practice as well. So in terms of going into the course and into the classroom. And then finally, what we're looking for, let's be honest here, is someone who is willing to get stuck in, put the hours in, work hard, and also has the guts to take some risks and potentially make some mistakes. I think I speak for all three of our institutions when I say that these are supportive environments. We don't expect you to come in and get everything right all of the time. If you did, then what would we be able to teach you? What would you learn as a result of coming to us? But it is important to come in and kind of be open to making mistakes, realizing that you're not going to get things right 100% of the time, and realizing that these careers do take a lot of hard work and a lot of hours. So if you're looking for a course where you come in, you have a few classes, go home, watch TV for a few hours, that's not going to be these courses. You're going to be the ones that are working long days making the TV shows that other students are potentially sat at home watching. Next slide, please. So in terms of applications, you can find out much more information about how to apply and what the process involves on each university website. So do check that out, specifically for the courses that you're looking at. You can apply to UK universities through UCAS, which is a central system that all UK universities use, or some of us will also have a direct application. So for example, my institution, LIPA, we do accept direct applications as well. Linking into that, check any deadlines. So that could be the UCAS deadline. It could be a deadline set by the individual institution for their application. But also do check whether they require you to submit a portfolio, so an example of your work, or whether you have to do any kind of interview or selection process. These will also have deadlines attached to them, so make sure that you're aware not only of what's required of you, but also when that is required of you as well. So a few hints and tips around what to include in your portfolio or what to showcase at interview. Again, it might be that for some institutions you are required to do both. For some, it could be that you're required only to do one and not the other. And it could even be at some institutions you're required to do neither. Now, I would say, and I could be slightly biased here, but I would say that if you're applying to a practical course that does not require you to submit a portfolio or have an interview, then I would argue that that course is maybe not quite as practical as you think it is going to be. Any practical course that doesn't require you to submit evidence of your work, I would think is actually more theory based than practical. But in your portfolio, try to include a variety of your work to showcase your full experience. Know how many pieces of work are required. So sometimes it might be 1 or 2, sometimes it could be 5 or 6. It really just depends on the institution and the course that you're applying to. Either way, we would be recommending that you try and show the full process of your work, so that you go from the early stage through to completion. So again, what we're looking for here is not a collection of finished, perfect work. We're looking for you to be able to showcase, this was my initial idea, this is how it started, but actually as I worked on it, this is how it developed and grew, and this is the finished project. But this is what I learned as a result of going through this process. And also be prepared to talk confidently and comfortably about your work. You should be proud of your work. You should be pleased with what you've learned as a result of taking it from that initial idea through to the finished piece. And again, we want you to show that passion for your work and your knowledge of your work. If you can't do that over your own work, then nobody else is going to be able to do that for you. So after today, there's a few things that you can do to carry on researching and to gain more information. So one of the good things to come out of the situation that we are all in at the moment is that all of our open days have now moved online. So it has never been easier for international students or international inquirers to find out more about universities by taking part in virtual open days, virtual events such as this one. You know, a couple of years ago, we would probably never have got together as a group of 8 universities to deliver this kind of activity, because to be frank, it just wasn't really a thing. A bit like what Felicity was saying about 20 years ago using Facebook. 2 years ago, I'd never really used Zoom. And 2 years ago, I'd never even heard of Microsoft Teams. But here we are every day using them on our daily life. So check out these virtual tours, virtual events. Make sure that you research courses fully. And by that, I mean, when you look at the title of a degree course, that alone is not going to give you enough course content. So going back to what Rachel mentioned at the beginning, there's hundreds and thousands of courses with film in the title, animation in the title, media in the title, but they are all going to be very, very different. Again, for a practical-led course, you want to be looking at the equipment and facilities that you've got access to as a student, and also how much access you have to that and how much equipment there is for the size of the course. So it's all very well and good saying that a university has got 10 XYZ cameras, but actually if there's 100 students on that course, 10 cameras of that standard probably isn't that great. So you want to be looking at that. I'll give you an example. I won't name the other institution, but some of our filmmaking students at LIPA went to work. So some of our undergrad students went to work with postgraduate students at another university, and the cameras that were being used and the facilities that were being used at that university on their postgraduate course were older than the cameras our undergrads were using. And again, that's just an example of the benefits of going to a creative institution for this type of course. It was none of the institutions in this group, by the way, just to clarify that. Start the process early. So again, hopefully by being with us today, you're starting this process early. Don't be afraid to ask lots of questions. So as Rachel said at the beginning, we've got lots of time at the end of today for you to talk to us and to ask questions. And if you think of anything after today, do get in touch with us as well. And make a decision based on what's right for you and your future. Your parents may have an input, your teachers may have an input, the next door neighbour might have an input, but it's your future, it's your career path, and it's your passion, and that's what's really important here for you. So at that point, I'm going to hand back over to Rachel for a moment.
All right, thank you so much. So that's the end of the section where we're talking about the courses and the careers and the applications. So we're now just going to really briefly introduce who we are and the institutions that we work for. And then we're going to open up to questions. So I can see we've already got some coming in, but just to say, please do send us your questions. This is your time to ask any questions you want. So for those of you that aren't maybe not so familiar with the sort of geography of the UK, and I live here, and to be honest, this was very useful for me to see this map. You can see exactly where we're all based. I think we are possibly about as far away from each other as it's possible to get in England. So you can see there sort of where we're all based, and we're now going to introduce each of our institutions. And I think I'm now handing back to you again, Ryan.
Yeah, it's me again. Sorry, everyone. So I'm Ryan. I'm from LIPA, which is the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts. The 4 in our title is very important to us because we are for both performers and those who make performance possible. And we would consider filmmaking and storytelling students to be those people who make performance possible, which is a big part of our institution. We were co-founded in 1996, so a relatively new institute, and we were co-founded by Sir Paul McCartney, who remains our lead patron. We are also actually housed in his former high school building. So we are 2 interconnected buildings, and 3 of the 4 Beatles actually attended high school or art college within those 2 buildings. So it's a pretty inspirational place. That said, we have some incredible facilities. So the outside is a beautiful old listed building. The inside is full of motion capture suites, TV studios, green screens, all of your camera equipment, editing suites, sound tech labs, audio labs. So the inside doesn't match the outside at all. As you can imagine, we are a fairly small institution and very specialist. So we have around 1,000 students in total. 25% of those, so 1 in 4, come from outside of the UK. So despite our small size, we have a very global and international outlook. And those students represent over 50 different nationalities around the world. And so we have students currently from, let me think, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong, China, India, South Korea, the US, Canada, all of Europe. So a really diverse mix of students. We are a creative, collaborative, and industry-focused environment. And I'll just touch on what each of those things mean. So a creative environment, one where really anything goes. LIPA students come up with some of the craziest ideas, but then they actually see those ideas through into reality, which is what it is all about. And collaborative, because all of our courses and all of our students work together, both within their discipline area across the 3 years of study, but also across different discipline areas too. And our sole purpose and our sole focus is for you to have a sustained career within your chosen industry. So that is our biggest measure of success. We have courses across 8 different areas. So you can see there that filmmaking is one of those. It's a relatively new course. So our 3rd year students at the moment were our first intake. So it's kind of that perfect balance between a new course, but now that we've got 3 intakes, it has grown, it's developed, and it's been very much adapted by the students and what they desire. But the key thing here, I think, is if you want to shoot a music video, you've got 300 music students who are all looking for you to film them. If you want to create show reels for actors, you've got a couple of 100 acting students, some of whom focus specifically on screen and digital media. If you want to shoot a dance show, you've got dancers. There was a great collaboration a few months ago rather now, between dance and the film students, again using the motion capture. studios and facilities to do all of their dance show. And finally, it would be amiss of me not to talk about the city of Liverpool, which is a very cultural and diverse city. It has a very rich art and culture scene. It's a UNESCO World City of Music. The waterfront there that you can see on the screen is around a 15-minute walk away from LIPA. But what's really impressive about this is that the city is actually used an awful lot for film and TV shows. So you may recognise some of the buildings in that picture, and the reason for that is that Liverpool doubles up as a film location for either London or New York on a very regular basis. So a few months ago, Batman was hanging off the side of that building, which was a bit surreal, but there he was. Some of the Harry Potter films have been filmed in Liverpool. Obviously, anything relating to the Beatles has been filmed in Liverpool, but also a lot of TV shows as well are set in Liverpool, or the city is used as a stunt double. So in terms of you gaining real life experience, it's a 10-minute walk away, and London is only 2 hours on the train as well. So it's very easy for you to get back and forth to London in the day. That's all from me. I'll hand over to Rachel, I think is next. No, I had a 50% chance and I got it. There we go.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so I'm from the University for the Creative Arts, and as it says in our name, we are a creative institution. Everything we do is in the creative industries. Even our business school is the business school for the creative industries. So does a lot of things like fashion, business and management, event management, music management. Music management's been really popular this year, which is awesome. We have about 6,000 students coming from all over the world, and we're spread across 4 campuses down in the southeast. So we're in and around London. We originally started as 4 different art and design colleges back in the 1850s. And then as we've evolved, we've become we've become one university under the 4 different campuses. So a whole range of different schools, but obviously we're really here to talk about film, media, animation and gaming today. In terms of gaming, we're located in this really fantastic location in the UK that's known as the Golden Triangle for game design. So we are in a little town called Farnham, and then we have Guildford, Farnborough and Aldershot around us, which are absolutely the place you want to be if you are doing animation in the UK. Then we work directly with Maidstone TV Studios. So our students who are doing film and media are basically working on British TV shows from the very beginning of their studies. They tend to be ones that are very popular here, might not necessarily be known abroad, things like Take Me Out or Blankety Blank, or Jules Holland's New Year's Hogmanay Shenanigans, I'm not sure what it's called. But yeah, lots of really big programs that they get to have all this work experience on from the very beginning. We don't have any campuses in central London. I think students often get this idea that they need to be in the centre of London to actually do art and design. The reality is London's great, but it's an ancient medieval city. There's no space to actually create anything in London. So yes, you might see things exhibited there, business meetings might happen there, but the reality is the creation of art and design and the creative industries takes place out of London. So we are located in what's known as the Creative Corridor. Basically, there's a motorway coming out of London and all the big film studios are located around there. So we have, back in the day, we sent loads of students to work on Harry Potter, then we've sent loads of students to work on Game of Thrones, Star Wars. They're back on Game of Thrones now. They've been working on The Witcher recently. We've sent a student to work on every single Marvel film as well, as a student, as part of their live projects, which is awesome. We, at one point, at the very, very beginning of everything Marvel, our university created the prototype for Thor's hammer. So we always like to talk about that. As an institution, we really emphasize small practical classes. 80% of our courses, 80% of the course content is very practical. We want you in the classrooms and we want you in the studios. We want you to be doing project work with your peers, doing project work with students outside of your course so that you understand how things work in the real world, because you never work in isolation. And one of the things I don't think we've quite mentioned is the way that all of our institutions will really help you to be an employable adult in the real world. We're not just teaching you art and design or a creative subject. You could be the best filmmaker in the world. You could be the best game designer. But if you can't tell anyone about it, what's the point? So we all give you, all good art and design universities are going to give you that confidence to talk about yourself, to put yourself out there for networking, to know how to write grant reports and to bid for things, to bid for funding, to become part of a group doing something. It's quite selfish sometimes, you know, we want to be able to brag about our students. We want to be able to talk about how wonderful our alumni are, and we are proud of them. But we do, as an institution, it's important for us to put you into the real world with all the skills that you need, not just for art and design, but for actually be able to get a job at the end of it. We want you to be employed. We want you to show all those people who said you're not going to get a job how amazingly successful you can actually be. All right, fab. Thank you, guys.
Sorry, I lost the unmute button there. That's great. So thank you so much. So finally, this is us. We are Falmouth University. So like Ryan and Felicity, we are also a university of the creative industries, very specialist creative university. We also have a very rich history. So we were started as the Falmouth School of Art in 1902, and since then we've become a real hub of creative thinking and design innovation. And you can see from the picture there that we are based in the southwest of England, in a coastal town in a really, really beautiful area of Cornwall. And Falmouth has been a real sort of anchor institution for creativity in Cornwall for over 120 years. And then now we have a very future focused curriculum, so really looking at sort of what Fliss was talking about earlier, where the sectors are going, sort of the future of these different sectors of the creative industries. And we have 9 departments, and they're all designed to reflect the creative industries. So we have architecture, performance, from graphic design, obviously our School of Film and Television, so a whole range of different programs. And then we also have our Cornwall Business School, where you can do, you know, event management, festival management, all of those sorts of things. We have around 5,000 students from over 53 countries, so a kind of medium-sized specialist institution, but we've really managed to maintain that sort of art school feel, and the average class size is around 15 to 18, so you can really benefit from the specialised attention of your academic, and then working in sort of smaller groups, really getting to know your peers. A little bit about our campuses, which I think is something that makes Falmouth very unique. So we have 2 really beautiful purpose-built campuses in Falmouth. They're about a 15-minute coach ride away from each other. So our larger one, Penryn, we share with the University of Exeter. So we have sports facilities, accommodation, and some fantastic industry standard facilities there. This is where our School of Film and Television is based. And just to give you a quick rundown of some of the facilities that you will have access to. So we've got 5 fully rigged production studios, stop motion studios, and green screen and motion capture suites. We also have the newsroom. This is a space that is set up for broadcasting news. So you've got audio and visual production and broadcasting facilities there. We've got an amazing space called the Lighthouse, and this is a writer's room. So it's inspired by Virginia Woolf, and it's this beautiful space with mid-century furniture, and it's a space where you can really be developing your ideas. So we've got the writer's room there, and we've got the Sound House, which is a space for radio production and broadcasting with all state-of-the-art equipment for radio production. And then we've also got our cinemas and libraries as well. So that's on our Penryn campus. And then about 15 minutes down the road, we've got our Falmouth campus. This is the original site of the Falmouth School of Art. And it's actually set in a subtropical garden. So it doesn't feel like a university because you're surrounded by palm trees and beautiful sort of subtropical foliage, and it's also only a 5-minute walk to the beach, so it's very easy in between lectures and workshops for you to walk down to the beach and you know, either swim in the sea or sit in and watch the ocean. So a really, really inspiring place to be. As I say, it's a coastal town, and it's actually regularly voted one of the best places to live. It's in a really thriving cultural part of the world. So we've got loads of fantastic galleries. We've got the Minack Theatre, which is the theatre that's cut into a cliff. A really thriving festival scene. You get loads of film festivals, music and art festivals there. So again, and I think what Felicity said is that lots of people think that you have to be in London to be creative, but actually the modern reality is that most creatives do not live in London. They live in places that inspire them, and then they travel to London to go and have their meetings and things like that, but they live in places that inspire them, and I think Falmouth is a very inspiring place to be. It's also the second safest university town in England and Wales, so very, very low crime statistics, which I know can be a bit of a worry for some people, so you know that you're joining a really safe community. And as with all of us, we've got a real focus on employability. That's really, really important to us at Falmouth, is to prepare you for a job after graduation. So we actually have an award-winning employability service. It's won a nationwide award for excellence. They offer loads of different support. We support every single student to do a placement. That's really important for us, that you get that industry experience while you're with us. We also, for our film students, we have our own creative agency called Main. This is a working agency that you can join, and you can go out and you can offer up your services as a filmmaker, as a creator, getting paid for it. So then you get that work experience, you get paid for the services, for the work that you do alongside your studies. So that's something that we have at Falmouth. And we're actually #1 in the UK for graduates starting or managing their own business. There's a real entrepreneurial spirit with us at Falmouth. But I'm conscious of the time, so I'm going to move on now, and we can start answering some of your questions. Just while we're looking at your questions, before I stop sharing my screen, just to say, so this is us, these are our contact details. Please do get in touch if we don't have a chance to answer your question now, or if you've got any additional questions, or you just want to have a chat, please do get in touch. You've got our email addresses on the screen there, and those are the websites of our universities. But I'm now going to stop sharing, and then let's see how many questions we can get through in 10 minutes.
Right, I've been having a look at them, so if you don't mind me asking you guys out loud. So a chance to talk about the recordings and what we did yesterday. What about acting courses in our institutions and other institutions within this group?
So yes, we do have acting programs, and I do recommend me and Ryan and Khaled from UCA. We were all part of a talk yesterday all about our performance courses, so I do recommend having a look at that recording. But yes, at Falmouth we have acting and also theatre and performance, so depending on if you want to learn acting skills for screen, or if you want to specialise more in acting skills for stage.
We're going to be sending you guys out all these recordings at the end of when Creative UK finishes, so definitely do check that out. And Ryan, go on, brag about how wonderful you guys are for acting.
Yeah, we have 2 acting programs, very similar to Falmouth. One is focused more towards stage acting, the other is focused much more towards screen and film acting. And then we also have a foundation certificate in acting as well, which is a 1-year program. It has no English language focus. It is purely an acting foundation. So it's designed for those who show a lot of potential, but aren't quite ready for the BA undergraduate course yet.
Fabulous, thank you. And yes, we of course do acting and performance as well. We even do quite a peculiar one, which is focused on acting for content, so online content, lots of social media creators, which is really unique. We've got another one, which if you don't mind, I'm going to answer. So is it possible to get into a creative school or course with no experience? Depends what you mean by no experience, but a lot of students think that to go and do art and design or a creative subject at university, you must have studied it in high school. That's absolutely not the case. A lot of education systems just don't even allow you to study a creative subject past 14, 15, 16. And we're not going to discriminate against you because your education system doesn't allow it. What we want to see is that you are interested in it. We want to see that you have if you're in that situation, we want to see that you've taken your personal time to research and to understand a little bit about the creative industries, and that you've been able to form an idea and an understanding of what you want to do. So if you want to do fashion, but you've never had an opportunity to formally study fashion, we need to understand why you think you are a fashion student. So your personal statement should show us, I think this design is really interesting, or I love this style of clothing. I have been really interested in, it can even be, I'm obsessively watching Next in Fashion on Netflix. That's something I'm really passionate about. And I try and make my own designs and I try and do sketching. We need to see that you've tried. It's not necessarily about the level of ability at this point, especially if you aren't able to formally study it. It's about your effort to try and to understand the subject. So absolutely not. We don't need formal experience, but we do need you to show an understanding of what you want to study and why you want to study it.
And the other thing to tag onto that as well is this is another good example of where a foundation year could be something to potentially consider as well. Or it could be that if you apply to a university for an undergraduate course, they then look at your application and say, we think you've got a lot of potential, but we'd like to make you an offer on the foundation course instead. So there's lots of options available.
Okay, I've got one for you guys. So when it comes to showing your experience in your portfolio, how much should be, if the student has had an opportunity to study it in school, how much should be schoolwork, how much should be personal, or even if they've been able to do professional work, and how many years back should they be going in their portfolio?
So I would say that we wouldn't recommend putting anything in your portfolio that's older than, say, 5 years, and the majority of it should be from the last few years. If you are putting anything that's older than 3 years, we would want to understand why, because we would hope that your skills and interests and things have developed. So perhaps you'll put something in because of a unique experience you had, but then we'd want to understand the context of it. In terms of the split between schoolwork and things that you do yourself, I mean, really what we're looking for in a portfolio is, as I think Ryan said earlier, is the development of ideas, showing your interests and showing your range. So I think that's more important rather than just the split between schoolwork and your own personal work. But I think we do definitely want to see both. We wouldn't want to just see stuff that you've done in school, because as we've said already, we're really interested in understanding why you want to do a subject, and we're really interested in you demonstrating your commitment and interest to the subject. That's really what we're interested in. So I think we would definitely expect to see some observational pieces, some pieces from things that you've gone and seen, or some exhibitions or performances, or depending on the program that you're doing. So we definitely want to see both, but I think the development of ideas is most important, I would say, from Falmouth.
Yeah, pretty similar, I would say as well. I'd say sort of 3-4 years old at the most, really, but that variety of work and examples and the idea development is really key. If you've got something that you might have won, like an under 12 award in your country, or something incredible thing like that, that's great. Include that if it's a landmark thing that you really want to reference. But if it's, I did this project, and it was pretty average, and now it's 4 or 5 years old, that's probably not going to be sufficient. So definitely try and use some more recent things if you can.
Fabulous, thank you. And then the last one is asking, it's basically about the changeability between subjects. So if a student were to do fine art or film for an undergraduate, could they then change to fine art or film, or vice versa, for their postgraduate course?
I think for us it would be possible, but you would again really need to be demonstrating to us why you want to do something for postgraduate. And obviously at postgraduate you're really stepping up in terms of the level and the standard of what you're studying. So if you've done a fine art undergraduate, but then outside of that you're creating your own films, you're working with film students, you're doing lots of work developing your film skills, then yes, we would absolutely take that into account. But I think if you've just done a fine art undergraduate and then you come and say I want to do a film postgraduate, I think the question from the academics would probably be, do you really, and also are you at the standard that we need you to be at for a postgraduate?
Yeah, sometimes if you want to switch between the undergraduate and postgraduate subjects, a pre-masters, a foundation, a master's foundation can be the right thing for you. It's all about showing your master's is not necessarily learning something new. It's about specializing and mastering your craft. So you can, but before you try and do that, reach out to the institutions you're interested in and speak to them about sort of how to word your portfolio, how to show what you're looking for, and how to word your personal statement in a way that shows us what we need to see. We're not going to write it for you, but we can tell you some touch points that we think are the things that we look for in that situation. And one last one in the chat. So what do you put in a film portfolio? Films. If you have them. For us, so for UCA, we want to see moving images in a film portfolio, but we understand you guys are 16, 17, 18, you don't have access to professional cameras. We see some amazing things shot on phones. We usually ask for like 5 minutes, whether that's a show reel or an individual piece, and then an essay, not an essay, but an explanation to tell us about the piece that you've done alongside it. We also need to understand what you did within it. Were you the director? Were you the producer? Did you write it? If you just send us the piece, we have no context and we have no understanding. So we love to see a moving image, but we also need to understand your role in it. Photography is also great to include in a film portfolio. Screenplays, storyboards, even costume design if you're that way inclined, if that's something you're interested in. So that was what it'd be for UCA. You guys?
I think very similarly. I think storyboards, moving image, photography, as you say, I think photography, people don't think about it, but it can really show your skills and your eye for setting up a shot and for lighting. So don't underestimate putting photography in there. I think also, again, things that have inspired you. So maybe screenshots from films or scenes that particularly inspired you and how that sort of fed into your ideas. But I think what I would say, because I'm just conscious of the time and we could go through loads of different detail, I would really recommend having a look on each institution's website, because they will probably give you very specific things that they're looking for. But yeah, generally that's the sort of thing that we would expect to see in a film portfolio.
Fabulous.
Same. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so I think we've come to the end of questions, and we've actually gone over, which it just means we had lots of questions. That's great. Okay, thank you so much, students. It was lovely to see you all. As I said, we'll send recordings and contact information for all of the sessions and then the university participants in the next few days. You'll just have to be a little bit patient while we pull all that together. And hopefully we'll see applications or queries from you guys in the future. And as well, fingers crossed, hopefully we will be able to travel and see you guys in person at some point in this academic year. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. All right, thank you everyone.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.